All right, let's look at an application of derivatives, which is used in economics. So in economics, there's a concept of supply and demand. There's a formula called the elasticity of demand, and I left off a minus sign on the notes. So please add this minus sign right here. The elasticity of demand of a product is negative P times d prime of P over dP. We say that something is unit elastic if the elasticity is 1, inelastic if the elasticity is less than 1, and elastic if the elasticity is greater than 1. So what the heck am I talking about? Well, every product that you buy will have an elasticity. And the easier it is for you to move away from that product, the more elastic it is. For example, let's say you need to make some money for the government, and so you decide that you want to put a really big tax on yachts. You say, yachts are very expensive. People who own yachts are very, very wealthy, and so we're going to put some outrageous, humongous tax on yachts, and that will make some money for the government through tax revenue. Well, that sounds like a good idea on paper, but the problem is that yachts are very, very elastic. What I mean by that is if you have a lot of money to spend on a yacht, it's very easy for you to take that money and spend it on something else. So if you want to buy a yacht for $1 million and suddenly they put a bunch of taxes on it so that it's $2 million, well, maybe you'll buy a nice car instead of a yacht, or maybe you'll buy a addition to your house instead of a yacht. In other words, you have plenty of options for your money at that point. So a yacht or a luxury item would be an example of something that's elastic. Something that's inelastic is something you can't go without. So for example, cigarettes would be an example of an inelastic item. The reason for that is because cigarettes are addictive, and so even if I put, or you or the government or whoever, even if you put taxes on an inelastic item, people will still buy them because they're addicted to it, and price is only one component of why they're buying that product. So cigarettes would be an example of something that's inelastic, where demand is less susceptible to price, and luxury items would be examples of elastic things. Anyway, here's the equation for what elasticity looks like and how we can calculate it, and you're actually going to see that it's fairly easy to follow this formula. And you'll learn much more about this if you take a microeconomics class. Here's what a typical demand function will look like. You'll notice that as the price goes up, demand will decrease, and that's the law of demand. So what we do is we just use this function right here and we plug it into here to find the elastic equation. So it says find the elastic demand. Well, first off, we need that negative sign that I forgot up top. Then we need our variable p. So negative p just came from the formula. The derivative equation is the next thing we need. Well, d prime of p is going to equal just -1 because the derivative of price is -1. So because the 501 goes away, the derivative of negative p is just -1. And then on the bottom, we put d of p, and d of p is just 501 minus p. And so that's it. The minus is the minus, the p is the p, the derivative is -1, and d of p is 501 minus p. So that simplifies to 5 over 501 minus p. There's your equation right there. So the next thing they want to do is say, what is the elasticity at this price point, 126? So to do that, we just plug in 126 in for p into this equation. So it's 126 over 501 minus 126. And when we do that, we get 126 over 501 minus 126, which is 375. And we should reduce this fraction if we can. I believe 3 goes into both the numerator and the denominator. So that would be 3 into 126 is 42. 3 into this will be 125. So we get 42 over 125, and that's actually the final answer. So notice that this is an inelastic item, inelastic, because our elasticity is less than 1. So this is a product where if we increase the price with a tax or something, then that means that people will still buy it at a certain rate. Some people will quit buying it, but at the margin, people will continue to buy it. We'll go to our last video next and do a little bit more with elasticity.